to the best of my ability. I was born in Poland in a tiny little town called Wareż, northeastern part of Poland, leaning toward the Ukraine geographically. We lived in this tiny, very poverty-stricken town. I cannot even call it town. It's smaller than a shtetl. And the little village was purely Jewish. The Poles just didn't want to live among Jews, and the Jews didn't mind it one bit. So I was born in September 1st, 1937, and my mother dedicated herself to, as any good mother, to raise me properly and concentrate exclusively on me, gave me very, very, very good care. My father was a wheat merchant. He used to buy grain from a farmer by the name of Burka, brought it to the mill, made flour out of it, kemach, and then used to distribute it into various sizes of pouches. And the business was good because there was a demand for his product. The reason there was a demand is because there were no bakeries. If you wanted to taste any bread or pastry, you had to bake it yourself. So the life was uneventful, although my father was telling stories of Polish anti-Semitism, which he encountered on the road of his business distribution. On September 1st, 1941, I am 4 years old, our life changed. What happened is, yeah, okay, thank you. Okay.
Let me see if I can get it.
No, let's leave it alone.
Okay, fine, okay.
Yeah, we won't bother with the.
I'll try it.
Okay, it's not working. And so, like I said, in 1941, our life changed because life in Europe changed also. Hitler, the dictator of Germany, had a peace treaty before he attacked Poland to neutralize the Red Army, and then he attacked Poland. Now, he attacked it massively and conquered Poland, which is a fairly large country, in record time. It was called the Blitzkrieg, the Lightning War. Now, our life didn't change much because we were geographically and numerically insignificant, I assume. I assume that the Germans were focusing on larger Jewish communities in larger towns. Yet directive came out, which we had to obey, which meant to wear the yellow star, the Magen David star, and if you were caught, the warning was not wearing the star, you were shot on the spot. My parents and everybody else were wearing the star. To me, as a 4-year-old, this was an ornament. I was all excited wearing the star, and life continued quietly with apprehension, not knowing what the next day will bring. Not a good way of living. Now, the German generals and Hitler, they noticed how fast they conquered such a large country like Poland, had other plans too. They said, if we conquer Poland so fast, Russia is larger, so it will take us a little longer. And Hitler broke the peace treaty with Stalin and conquered Poland massively. It was called Mivtza Barbarossa. It occurred somewhere in 1941 to the end of June. He threw at Russia about 1 million soldiers, massive onslaught of tanks, airplanes, and so forth. The Russians, trying to slow them down, were using artillery fire, and many artillery fires, many shells fell on Polish villages, which in turn triggered a massive refugee movement, which were moving away from the dangers of war. They were moving south. The opposite were the war was northeast, they were moving south. Now, some refugees, and they were passing by our village. We saw a continuous stream of refugees. But some refugees came to our village, not Polish, Jewish. And my parents hosted them because they were more well-to-do, had more food. So they fed them. They were hungry and they were scared. And my parents started questioning them. What happened? And their story, despite them coming from various locations, was the same. Namely, the Germans told us, they said, to gather at a place, if it's a central place outdoors, bring these 2 suitcases, and then they loaded them up on trucks and took them away. Obviously, these who came to our village didn't listen to the orders and escaped. And my mother became agitated and asked, where did they take them? And they said, we heard from Poles, other Poles, that they took them to labor camps. Nobody knew what was going on yet. And my mother pressed on and asked, who did they take to the labor camp? And she and my father didn't like at all the answer. They took everybody. It didn't make to my parents sense that into labor camp, they took men, old men, women, children. They didn't know what was happening, but they became suspicious. And my mother pressed my husband, pressed my father, pressed her husband. We cannot stay here and wait for the Germans to load us up on truck and take us where to? She sensed danger. My father didn't have a good answer. He knew the anti-Semitism in the countryside. Then my mother came with a plan. She says, I see these refugees passing by continuously. Let's attach ourselves to a group of refugees and pretend that we are Polish refugees. Now, there was a definitely element of danger here because they had to remove their Jewish star, and that's punishable by death. My mother said, we have to take a chance. My father had an objection to her plan because for another reason. My mother looked as European as you can imagine. You couldn't place her anywhere. She could come from Russia, from Poland, from Germany, from France. She looked typically European. I myself, as a child, had Slavic features, namely pronounced lips, white nose, blue eyes, and hair, brown hair. My father had an ethnic face. He looked as a typical Jew should look in Poland. And if Paul could spot his type of appearance as a Jew, I would say from a mile. He was afraid with his looks, he would expose us to danger. That's why he was fighting it. Finally, my mother pressed him so much that he agreed to join the refugees. So they began preparations, and then my mother put in one bag perishable food as much as my father could carry, and the other bag clothing for winter. And one day, it was kind of toward the end of the summer, we walked out of our fairly comfortable house. Now, I failed to mention also that my father, while doing business and selling successfully flour and generating a lot of zlotys, which is Polish currency, whenever he went into a larger town, he sought out dealers, gold dealers, and was exchanging it for gold. So at this point in time, he had accumulated quite a few gold coins. So how do they take their little treasure with them? My mother made a tool belt, which Polish peasants were wearing, and she took a piece of coarse material, cut it out, anchored the coin with threads, row after row, covered it with another piece of thread, stitched around it. And my father was wearing a very expensive and heavy tool belt, but it didn't arouse any suspicion. And we walked out of the house at the end of the summer, 1941. My mother was very upset because her parents and uncles, her brothers, didn't want to go with us. They rather stay in the village. Nevertheless, my parents left. To me, as a 4-year-old, uh, this was an interesting adventure. I thought we were going on a picnic. We took food with us. We slept under the skies. And whenever it was bad weather, we snuck into a barn and slept in and covered ourselves with straw and hay. Um, and that's how it went. Uh, the Polish refugees didn't pay much attention to us, yet there were some women who were very nosy and asked my mother, "Where is your husband?" And my father was walking at the very, very end of the group, uh, covering his face, half of his face, with a scarf, which looked kind of suspicious to begin with because it was still summer and warm. Ah, my mother came up with a very good answer. She says, "You don't want him here. He's there because he has a contagious disease." "Oh," they says, "what is it?" She says, "Oh, it's TB." When they had tuberculosis, they were very happy uh, of leaving him alone. They were concentrating on me too much, to my mother's nervousness. So my mother took me to the side and says, "When you go to sleep, uh, go down on your knees, do like that, and pray a little." I said, "Pray? What kind of prayers? What should I say?" She says, "Just mumble something, you know." So, and she showed me uh, how to cross myself. And before I went to sleep, I went down on my knees and did dutifully what my mother said, to the delight of the women who said, "Look at that little boy, he likes to pray." They didn't see a thing like that. It was amazing. They, they, they called me little priest, but they left me alone. Uh, and that's how life went on. We were moving south, I'm sorry, uh, deliberately, slowly, but we were moving to nowhere. We didn't have a destination. Can you imagine how my parents felt? The element of uncertainty. And one day, my father said to my mother, "We have to get off the road because look what's happening. The police are stopping some refugees, and they were police on motorcycles, stopped some of them, interrogated them. Some of them they took away, and some of them they let go. If they zeroed in on us, they would shot us on the spot." My father was very nervous. So, and the road was such, try to imagine a wide dirt road. On one side were dense woods, on the other side were village after village after village. And they decided to knock on the door. And again, the element of uncertainty. Who will open the door? Is it going to be a nice man, inviting man, or a hostile man? Nevertheless, they knocked on the door. A man opens the door. Immediately, he pushes away. He says, "Go away, you refugees." Didn't say you Jews, you refugees. Maybe some refugees bothered him too much, was knocking on the door and so forth. We don't know. My father, who was kind of ready for this hostile welcome, had 5 coins in his hand. He said, "We are so tired. We want to rest a little bit. Give us some shelter to rest. And here are 5 gold coins for that." The man never saw so much gold in his life. He was amazed and became instantly friendly, took us to uh, a barn, and next to the barn there was a shallow underground shelter, like a cellar. He gave us some straw, a bucket for waste, kerosene lamp, and we stayed there about 10 days, twice a week, or 3 times a week sometimes. He used to bring us food. Uh, one, one day, one evening, as a matter of fact, he came in holding something in his hand, covered, which smelled very good. He said, "It's my birthday today. You are nice people, and I'm sharing some pastry with you." We were very grateful. We didn't see, uh, we didn't smell a piece of pastry for a few months already. Uh, he uncovers it, and it's blueberry pie. He said, "Enjoy," and leaves. My father takes a piece, breaks it off, gives it to my mother. Another piece breaks off, gives it to me. And he himself begins to eat ravenously. I swallow one bite and throw up instantly, violently. My mother does the same. My father stops eating. He looks around. He, he, he does not throw up. He falls to the floor in terrible agony. Uh, he, the man poisoned us. I don't know why he did it. Maybe he was scared. I have no idea what motivated him. Poisoned us. I and my mother returned it so fast that it didn't affect us. But my father couldn't throw up. My mother rushed to him and begged him, "Open your mouth, open your mouth." She wanted to insert some fingers in his to make him gag, to make him throw up. He was in such a pain that he couldn't respond to her request. Crying, she lowered herself to the floor, tried to make him comfortably, put his head in her lap, was stroking his head, and she was crying. I was sitting next to him on the floor, holding on to his shirt, to his sleeve, crying too. My father is very sick. Ah, and we sat there and cried, and my father was moaning and groaning for a while, and then he stopped. My mother kept crying. I didn't know why. I was happy then that to me, as a child, he fell asleep. I was happy that he fell asleep. He didn't have pain anymore. My mother knew better. She knew that he was not dead. She kept crying and crying. And then, like waking up from a nightmare, she got up and said to me, Oleś, that was my name in Polish, Oleś, get up, get up. We have to leave, we have to leave. I became totally hysterical. We cannot leave, I started crying even more. We cannot leave Dad here. He's sleeping, I said. No, we have to leave, she said. We have to leave now. She sensed danger. She assumed that, a man could come in. The man could come in to check whether he killed us, whether he did a good job. Caesar surviving would kill us there. And she sensed a terrible danger. By force, she yanked me away from my father, had the presence of mind to grab the gold, uh, gold, uh, gold coins, and we ran into the field. I was still crying because we left my father behind. But here was a mother, a young mother in her early 20s, possibly of some of your age, there you sitting there, and she was facing now all alone two enemies, two powerful enemies. The Germans, the Nazis, we fooled, kind of. We were Polish refugees. By the way, I didn't mention it, I should have mentioned it at the very beginning, that the village, since it was Jewish, spoke exclusively Yiddish. My mother and father spoke Yiddish home, but my mother, who knew very high level Polish, spoke to me only Polish. Had she spoke to me Yiddish, and I acquired a certain kind of accent, we wouldn't have survived. I asked her, what made you do that? She didn't have an answer. She says, some feeling. Okay, so now she faces the German as a Polish refugee. The second enemy, one cannot fool, namely hunger. When you're hungry, you're hungry. And we were getting hungrier and hungrier. And my mother was begging for food, unsuccessfully. She was trying to buy food with golden coins. Sometimes she succeeded, sometimes she didn't. Eventually, she was desperate and told me, now, why don't you ask for some food? And she told me how to do it. She rubbed into my face, which I was filthy to begin with, but she rubbed even more dirt. She said, knock on the door, extend your hand, and say, kawał chleba, proszę. A piece of bread, please. A piece of bread, please. And I did it so convincingly, and I must have looked so pitifully that I was successful. they kind of aroused Rachamim, and they felt sorry for the little skeletal boy, filthy boy there standing in front of them. Gave me a piece of bread, a piece of potato, and that's how it went. But we were losing our strength. At night, my mother used to go into village, uh, fending off dogs with a stick, looking in garbage, picking up frozen vegetables and so on that the Polacks throw away. Ah, she used to put it in her mouth, uh, chew it up a little and giving it to me. And I used to eat it, never complained, like it was a delicacy. And it was pure garbage. And when you eat garbage, there's no value to it. It satisfies momentarily your pains of hunger. And my mother ate the same. At a certain point, she felt that she cannot go on anymore. She's, she, she started crying, looking at me. I cannot go walk anymore, she said. She sat down under a tree, took me in her arms, lowered her, lowered her head, and was waiting to die. Then she felt somebody tapping her shoulder. She looked up. A woman was standing over her. She said, "My goodness, I thought you were dead. How is the boy?" I opened my eyes too, and my mother whispered, "Please bring us a piece of bread and some water, please." The woman very obligingly ran to the house and brought us what we requested, and then invited us into the house. She saved our life right there. Angel of mercy. She had my mother up. My mother leaned on her shoulders. She picked me up, and slowly we dragged ourselves into the house. She says, "You'll be more comfortable here. It's not so hot." She spread a blanket on the floor. We crawled on it and instantly fell asleep until next morning. Next morning, she extended the invitation by saying, "You can stay here a few more days, but you have to get rid of the filthy clothing and you have to take a bath." Uh, I don't know where her husband was. We didn't ask questions. He wasn't there. Uh, she showed my mother some of her clothing, a blouse and a skirt, and warmed her some water and in a tub, which they did laundry as well on a scrub board. They took baths. There were no showers, no indoor plumbing, nothing. My mother, for the first time, took a warm bath in months and months of terrible winter and so on. She didn't take a bath. She felt so good. Then when she finished, she put the clothing on, it fitted her okay. And then the woman says, "Now, why don't you, in the same water, put your little boy in? he looked so filthy. She was very much focused on me because she told us she had a boy like me, a little older, who played in the dirt on the road, found a grenade which accidentally probably fell off a German truck, pulled the pin, and it blew him up. So she was very much focused on me. My mother, when she heard this, became nervous. She says, "No, no, no, we will go now. You saved our life. You, you were such a terrific person." And the woman says, "Don't you want to give him a bath?" She became agitated and suspicious. My mother had to give me a bath. My mother was afraid that by giving me a bath, the woman will notice that we were Jews, not Polish refugees. Uh, my mother, I shed my clothes. My mother shielded me with her body, but the woman noticed that I was circumcised. I climbed into the water. She smiled, says, "I will be back soon," and leaves. I meanwhile wash up very happily and put on the clothes that she left of her unfortunate son. And in a few minutes later, she came in with a Polish refugee. Her appearance and behavior changed in such a drastic way. She said to the policeman, "Take these leprous Jews out of here." We suddenly became lepers. Ah, okay. One day she's an angel of mercy, saved our lives. The next day, she sentences us to die without the problem, with a lot of hate. What did, I mean, the Poles didn't like Jews, that's a fact. But what did a young mother and a little boy do to her? Parszywe Żydy, she said, leprous Jews. My mother never forgot that. The policeman took us away. My mother begged him to let us go. He said, "No, I cannot do that. They would shoot me if they find out I let you go. But I will do you a favor. I will take you to a German regular police station and not into a Gestapo station. On the Gestapo station, they would shoot you just immediately. On the German police station, you have a chance to live a few days longer." Okay. They brought us into a police station and pushed us into a cell. The cell was filled with Jews, which were, I assume, caught in local roundups. Some of them were crying, some of them were praying. It was a sad scene. We sat on the floor and waiting. Another Polish policeman comes in and asks, "Who of you women knows how to cook well?" My mother raises her hand immediately, but so do three other Jewish women. And he approaches my mother, looks at her, and says, wisely, I would say, uh, you look too young to be a good cook, but since you are cleanest of them all, come with me. And he took her to the kitchen. And then my mother blossomed up. She was a natural cook. She didn't know it, but she cooked so well. She found out soon why they were looking for another cook because the chief cook was a terrible cook. To the delight of the policeman and the commandant, the commander of the camp, uh, her her cooking was accepted with a lot of gratitude. What she was afraid is I I was not allowed to come to the kitchen, no matter how she begged. I was staying alone. What did they do with the Jews when the cell filled up capacity? They used to take them on truck and take them in the woods. She was afraid that they might grab me, throw me on the truck, and I will disappear. So she begged the commander in Polish. He was talking to her German. She said, "Nie rozumiem, nie rozumiem." I don't understand. Uh, a mysterious feeling, a gut feeling, she told me, not to let them know that I understand and speak German. And the man obliged. He gave an order not to touch me, and Germans follow orders very well, and they didn't touch me. Certain times the cell was completely empty. I was the only one left there. And we stayed there for about 3 weeks. We regained our strength because we ate well. They were generous with food for the amazing cook and her little son. And we just regained our strength. It was an amazing feeling. Uh, then, unfortunately, it didn't last too long. They had to leave the complex, the police station. I don't know exactly why, maybe because of the movement of the Russian army. Uh, and she overheard the commandant telling his deputy, tomorrow morning, get rid of the woman and the child. And my mother, who was an activist by nature, started to make preparations to escape. She found a piece of wire, told me, hold on to this wire until tonight. And, excuse me, now that I get older, I need more water. Once upon a time, I didn't need water. Can you imagine a door, a wooden door with a little window inside, which wasn't too tall, luckily enough for us. Also, luckily enough for us, there was no glass in it. It was broken. On the outside, there was a iron bar which was locking the door. My mother took at night that piece of wire, made a loop, extended her hand through the door, and was pulling, countless times, pulling until she opened the door. Uh, she opened the door, grabbed the coins, the tool belt, and we ran into the woods. Uh, and we were stopped at a certain point by barbed wire. Didn't stop my mother. She opened the barbed wire for me, lacerated her hands badly. I crawled through it, ripped up my clothing, scratched my knees, legs, and back. I was bleeding. Then my mother tried to negotiate her way, powered her way through the barbed wire, ripping up her clothes completely and scratching herself mercilessly all over. She was bleeding. We ran to the road. I would say, like God sent. So it happened that the timing was such that the horse and the buggy, a farmer, was passing by. My mother came to him and says, please give us a ride. We try to distance ourselves away from here. We escaped from the police station. He knew where the police station was, so she knew she wasn't. And the way we looked, she believed her. Please, please, come up, come up. We sat on the buggy and he took off. Then he got nervous because traffic had intensified. And he says, I'm sorry, you must get off. I don't want to get in trouble. So we had to get off. We were hiding in the forest until nighttime. Nighttime, we ventured into a village. My mother used the pump. There were no, like I mentioned before, indoor plumbing. We washed up from the blood and so forth. And my mother desperately was hoping that some clothing was left on the line. And sure enough, it was. Uh, uh, it, it, she, she saw some women's clothes, a skirt and a blouse. And for me, she was looking and looking. Uh, I was surprised that she bypassed some pants which were hanging. And she says, you are going to wear this, she said. And it was a girl's dress. She didn't want to do anything with us being recognized as Jews through my circumcision. My hair was very long, didn't have a haircut for many, many months. And I put on the dress. And later, my mother was laughing and said, you didn't, you didn't, you wouldn't make it as the best looking girl in Poland, but you did okay. So I was masquerading as a girl. My mother stopped walking south when she heard from some refugees who were drifting back that uh, they said, we heard from our relatives who stayed behind, no more shelling of Polish refugees. The Germans pushed the Russians deep into Russia, so it's safe to go back. My mother decided to go back to Mr. Burka, who was selling grain to my father, and they had good business dealings, and asked him for shelter. And the trek began. And this is 42 now, our second winter in Poland, in the Polish countryside. It was murderous trip. Uh, my mother was losing strength. She fell many times in the snow, and later she described it. She said, I didn't want to get up. Uh, I felt so peaceful. It was so nice. It's kind of thought of a freezing person in a way, I assume. Yet she knew that if she stays there, she will freeze and I will freeze too. She shook it off and grabbed me. She used to drag me like a sled, and we were we would have definitely frozen to death. We didn't have any shoes. We have some schmattes and newspaper kind of attached, and we didn't get frostbites. It's amazing. And some farmers on horse and uh, sleds pulled by horses. That's the only transportation there was in deep snow. Stopped and gave us a ride. They saved our life. We we kept moving forward in record time, and in 1943, still winter, uh, we reached our destination, and my mother said, "Oh, we are at Burka's house." She was waiting for the night. He came out to feed the pigs or something. My mother said to him, "Mr. Burka, do you recognize me?" He, he says, "Oh, yeah. And how was your husband?" She says, "Unfortunately, he was murdered." He was very upset. He liked my father. My mother took the gold coins. He didn't even see the gold coins, how many they were. He says, this is all yours. Ah, you are the end of our road. We, we don't know where to go now. Please give us shelter. He didn't hesitate for a moment. He says, absolutely, but don't tell our family. Let's do it without them knowing. He took us to a woodshed. In the woodshed was a floor. It was a uh, wooden floor, which was in the wooden floor. There was a very expertly cut out. A panel was cut out, lifted up, and a very shallow cellar was built under the floor. And he told us to go down there, gave us some straw, like the other guy gave us a kerosene lamp, a bucket of waste. And we spent there about roughly 2 years. Can you imagine? The other man, after 10 days, tries to murder us for one reason or another. And this man endangers his life and his family life for almost 2 years. I don't understand it. The same country, the same language, the same religion. What possesses one man to murder and one man to become a righteous among the Gentiles? Now, he was very nervous about me. He says, keep him quiet, keep him quiet. He was afraid I, as a child, can make noise, and he says it can be heard very easily. Uh, my mother says, "Don't worry. If I tell him to keep quiet, he will be keeping quiet." And that's how it went on. Early in the morning, he used to knock on the panel. My mother gave him the horrible bucket. He used to empty it, wash it out, give it back to us. My mother begged him to leave it open or to air the little shelter. Uh, he did it for a while, then he covered it, and that's how life went on. My mother wasn't happy. She wasn't happy about me. I had nothing to do. I was a 4.5 going on 5-year-old child, no stimulation whatsoever. No, no physical stimulation, no mental stimulation. And 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 my mother thought that when we are liberated, and she always believed that we will be liberated. Uh, she, I will be a deficient child. So she started to do something about it. She was crawling with me in that limited space. At night, she pushed the panel out. We crawled out, and I was walking around more in the wooden shed. I was delighted, the kind of movement. She opened the window for, for me to breathe in fresh air, and the very smelly cellar was being aired out. And she used to say, quietly, I used to giggle. I was so happy. Uh, quiet, quiet. Uh, and then we used to go back. And what did she do for my mind? uh, we didn't have anything. She begged him for paper, for crayons. He said, it's wartime. Where will I take such a thing? He said. Uh, so she invented stories. She told elaborate Polish stories. Uh, and in these stories, she inserted Polish names, Polish personalities. Some of them long, some of them short, like Adam Mickiewicz, Henryk Sienkiewicz, Paul Lesław Prus, and so on. About 5, 6 names. I was listening. Then she says, well, repeat it for me. And then I try to repeat it, sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully. If I was successfully, she told me, hey, you have to listen again. And again, she told me. And that's how it went. I wasn't frustrated. I was happy. My mother was focused on me. But how my mother kept her sanity going, it was a mystery. And that's how it went for almost 2 years. At a certain point, my mother began acting strangely. She started crying and laughing at the same time. She said, she grabbed me, was shaking me like that, and said, Olish, we are getting out of here. I don't know what she was talking about. We are getting out of here. She heard outside the Russian language. The Russians are coming. Ah, she was so happy. And while she was climbing up, she heard German and a lot of fighting, machine gun fire, grenades, and explosions. It went like that for about a week or so. She was going crazy. Uh, Eventually, she heard just Russia, and she was coming out. Now, try to imagine half of her body is sticking out of the floor, and the timing was such that while she was getting out, the door was kicked in, and four Russian soldiers with machine guns burst into the shed. They were looking for, we found out later, they were looking for Germans. They were given orders. You found a German, you shoot him. Whether it's woman, child, man, shoot him. And here, my mother sensed danger. She was yelling, Yevreya, Yevreya, which means Jews, Jews. One of them wasn't impressed. He thought she was German. He came over to her, hit her hard in the face. She fell back in the hole. He took a grenade, wanted to throw it down, and the man behind him grabbed his hand and says, listen, you are a liberator, not a murderer. She is not German. The other two soldiers agree with him. And this man who saved our life for sure was a Jew. Can you imagine the odds against it? I'm not saying that one of these soldiers wouldn't stop them, but it's speculative. He, in a division of thousands of Russian soldiers, four soldiers coming into the shed, and among them being Jewish, something amazing. Some people tell me this is hashgacha pratit. I don't know about it because I think my father deserved it too. He was a righteous man. And that's how we were liberated. The man told us to don't go out. The sun will blind you. He couldn't believe we didn't see the sun for almost 2 years. I will bring you something to save your eyes from the reflection in the snow will blind you. He comes back with goggles, which he smeared some dirt in them. And here can you imagine, tiny face, skeletal, walking with big goggles, first time into the sun. What a great feeling, despite the cold. And in the sun, it wasn't that cold. And then I become nervous. I see soldiers. I was afraid. I was always told, you see soldiers who keep quiet. Russian soldiers, they were looking at us like we were from another planet. A little boy and a wife and a mother. They surrounded us. And I was really scared. And then a burly Russian soldier comes out, picks me up, puts me on his shoulders, and begins dancing. And the soldiers around him dance too. What a scene. The soldiers are friendly. I began to enjoy it. The doctor of the division had the presence of mind to rush to my mother and say, don't give him any candy, it will kill him. And sure enough, my mother didn't. And they gave me an avalanche of chocolate and candy. Uh, and my mother used to give it out to kids in the village. Uh, and and that's how we were liberated. We were walking from one DP camp to another, from one uh, from one displacement camp to another. And we found out, and they people who were in this camp left lists, and that's how we found out that my grandma and an uncle survived. But we couldn't get in touch with them. We were drifting like that until we finally got in touch with, in one of the camps, we found our grandma and grandpa. My mother, to give me a more, after such an ordeal, to give me a more stable life, married another survivor after about a year by the name of Eli Diamond, who was also a survivor, who lost a wife and two children and himself jumped off a death train, which was taking him to a death camp. In 19, we stayed in Poland for 5 years, from 1945 to 1950. I thought it's for me. And in 1950, my stepfather decided to go to Israel. Quite a large group of his family members, he found out, moved to Israel and survived the war. We took a train to Italy, and from Italy we took a boat, a nightmare of a traveling problem. Hard to describe it, and I will not describe it because it was a terrible ride. But when we arrived in Israel, it was like stepping into paradise. The weather was warm. There was a lot of soldiers, but they were Jewish soldiers. I was surprised. They didn't bother me. I was walking around like the kids in Poland accepted me okay, despite my weird Polish language, and my adjustment to Hebrew took some time. I was the oldest graduate of the high school, which is at the age of 18, you're supposed to graduate high school. So I graduated at the age of 20. And after that, I was drafted in the army. And I must say, I try to do my best to become. I was surprised that I was given kosher kravish time. I'm sure I don't have to translate that, and because I didn't know that I was that fit, and I became a soldier down south in the desert, in the Negev, in a camp called Machane Natan. There I finished my training And my mother couldn't recognize me. I came back kind of dark from the sun and very skinny. And my mother was worried that I lost so much weight. I say, it's good. They feed me okay. I told her, don't worry. Uh, she said, they do something for you, which I don't like. Oh, well, I said, that's stuff that you don't like. The army likes it. And she said, they took away my little boy. When she talked to me like that, I was about close to 22 years old. I was still her little boy. Uh, I was, after once I was wounded in my leg, in maneuvers. I was sent to the ordnance, and I was attached to a unit which tests ammunition and weaponry. And toward the end of my service, I talked enough already. I'm skipping some. I try to work and study unsuccessfully in Israel. So I came to the United States with my parents, and here I studied and worked quite more successfully. I finished Jewish Theological Seminary with a Bachelor of Hebrew Letters, and Pace University with a degree in psychology, which is completely worthless without an MA or PhD. But it's something. I dedicated my life to Jewish education because I felt I was shocked when I found out how prevalent the attrition of Jews is in a land of the free. My goodness. And I saw good results. I still wasn't happy because I wasn't married. So the big Misader Kedushin up in the sky whispered in my future wife's ears and say, go to Manhattan, you will find your husband.
Wife. Wife.
Corrected me, wife. Yeah. You will find your husband. And sure enough, she found me. We are happily married 55 years. And this is Susan. Say hello.
Hi. Hello.
And our union gave the Klal Israel two marvelous children. One is Dalia Constantyn, which lives in Tinning, and one is that Rav Yeshuchat knows well. It's Rabbi Constantyn, Ariel Constantyn. For whatever it's worth, the father says he's a good rabbi for Tel Aviv.
I second that. I second that. Thank you very, very much.
And I will third it. I will third it. Rav Ariel is a wonderful rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you, too. So I didn't exaggerate.
No, not at all. But it's as time goes on, all these stories are more and more precious. so that the next generation should be able to hear directly these experiences from the Shoah. You know, it's very important.
Right.
It is.
Yes.
I realize it, so I keep talking as long as
Yes, you can.
I can do it physically and mentally.
Ad me'ah ve'esrim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
You didn't mention something.
Oh,
We have, besides your 2 children, you have 8 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren at this
Wow.
point.
Wow. L'yain hara. Shalom, shalom from all of us.
Thank you.
Shalom ubracha.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
B'vakasha.